broad daylight, a crowded street, and yet no one saw the killer coming. 29-year-old Rachel Monroe never made it home that afternoon. The man who followed her was calm, calculated, a predator hiding in plain sight. His name Derek Lawson. But this wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. What happened next shocked everyone. Rachel Monroe lived in Chandler, Arizona, a vibrant desert city with endless sunshine and busy streets. She was kind, outgoing, and worked as a local nurse. Friends called her the one person who could light up an entire room. Her suspected killer, Derek Lawson, was different. A quiet drifter, always watching, always calculating. The two crossed paths in a way no one could have predicted. But when they did, Rachel's fate was sealed. Before we unravel the chilling truth, remember, we post daily. Subscribe so you never miss a case. Rachel Monroe lived a life that, on the surface, looked simple, ordinary, safe. She was 29, a registered nurse in Chandler, Arizona. Her days were filled with double shifts at the hospital, quick coffee runs, and late-night phone calls with friends who joked that she was married to her scrubs. She was the kind of woman people instantly liked: warm smile, quick laugh, and a quiet resilience that came from years of caring for others more than herself. But behind the routine there were moments. Subtle moments that hinted at something darker, something she didn't yet understand. Rachel had recently moved into a modest apartment near downtown. She loved the noise of the city, the steady hum of cars, the chatter of neighbors, the faint music that drifted from restaurants at night. To her, it was comforting. But she started noticing things she couldn't shake. A shadow in her peripheral vision while she jogged. Footsteps that echoed just a beat too long behind her. A man leaning against a street lamp, watching her window as she closed the blinds. Her roommate brushed it off. "It's Chandler," she said. "There are weirdos everywhere. You're safe." Rachel laughed and pretended to agree, but deep down she knew it wasn't nothing. One night, after finishing a 12-hour shift, she called her best friend on the drive home. The conversation was light, filled with stories of difficult patients and co-workers, until her tone suddenly shifted. She whispered, "I think someone's following me." Her friend tried to reassure her. Maybe it was another nurse leaving the hospital. Maybe just a coincidence. Rachel wanted to believe that, but the unease clung to her. Still, she carried on. She went to work. She met her mother for brunch. She scrolled through social media, leaving cheerful comments on friends' posts. She even began training for a charity 5K, running through the desert trails at sunrise, headphones in, hair pulled back. But each time she jogged, she felt that invisible weight pressing against her spine. That sense of being observed. Neighbors would later remember seeing a tall, quiet man drifting around the block. He wasn't threatening, not outwardly. He didn't speak to anyone. He just lingered. He watched. And Rachel was often the center of his gaze. Weeks before her death, she told a coworker about the man. She described him as ordinary, too ordinary. Faded jeans, plain shirts, unremarkable face. The kind of man who would disappear into a crowd, unnoticed. "That's what makes him scary," she admitted. But Rachel didn't go to the police. She didn't file a report. She thought she was imagining it. That maybe she was tired, overworked, letting her mind run wild. Then, on the afternoon of May 17, 2023, cameras caught her walking along a busy downtown street. She looked carefree, earbuds in, sun lighting her face. She had no idea that just behind her, a man was matching every step. His eyes fixed, his pace steady. Rachel thought her life was ordinary. But she was about to become part of something terrifying. And what happened next would leave the entire city shaken. It was 4:12 p.m. on a Tuesday. Downtown Chandler was alive with the rhythm of ordinary life. Cars idled at stoplights. Children laughed outside an ice cream shop. A street musician strummed a guitar, his voice cutting through the desert air. Rachel Monroe walked toward her car in the public lot on Boston Street, her tote bag slung over her shoulder. She had just finished grabbing a coffee and was texting her mother about dinner plans. The cameras show her smiling, distracted, comfortable. What Rachel didn't know was that just 30 feet behind her, Derek Lawson followed. His movements were calm, rehearsed. He carried nothing in his hands. His face betrayed nothing. To strangers, he looked like any other man on his way home. But as Rachel reached for her keys, the atmosphere shifted. Witnesses recall hearing a gasp, the clatter of metal hitting concrete, and then a scream so sharp it sliced through the noise of the street. The cameras caught it. Lawson lunged. One quick, brutal strike to Rachel's chest. She stumbled, her coffee cup exploding across the pavement. People froze. A mother shielded her child. A man shouted for help. Rachel fell to the ground, clutching at the wound, eyes wide with shock. Lawson didn't run immediately. For a split second, he just stood there staring at her as if studying his own handiwork. Then without a word he bolted. He darted across the lot, weaving between parked cars, disappearing into an alley like smoke vanishing into the desert air. The aftermath was chaos. A witness, still shaking, told police later, "It happened so fast. One moment she was walking and the next, she was on the ground. He looked so calm, like he'd done it before." Another described the silence that followed. Nobody knew what to do. People just froze. Paramedics arrived within minutes, their sirens slicing through the stillness. But Rachel had already lost too much blood. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Word spread instantly. Bystanders filmed the moments after the attack, uploading shaky clips online. Within hours, hashtags trended across Arizona. Hashtag broad daylight killer. Hashtag justice for Rachel. The Chandler Police Department released a still from the surveillance footage. Lawson's image, though grainy, was chilling, his head slightly down, shoulders squared, eyes locked forward. The community panicked. News anchors warned residents not to walk alone. Families locked their doors early. Fear spread faster than the desert wind. But detectives noticed something else in the footage. The attack wasn't sloppy. It wasn't impulsive. The way Lawson approached, the swiftness of his strike, the lack of hesitation, it all suggested precision. Practice. Rachel's death was not the first. And it would not be the last. For investigators, one horrifying question surfaced immediately. Had a serial killer been walking among them all along? Detectives wasted no time. The footage of Rachel's murder was everywhere on the news, plastered across social media, replayed endlessly until it burned into the minds of everyone in Chandler. But for investigators, the real work began in silence, inside a small, fluorescent-lit room at police headquarters. They studied every frame of the surveillance video. Derek Lawson's face wasn't clear, but his body language was unmistakable. The way he shadowed Rachel. The way he waited for just the right moment. This wasn't impulsive rage, it was methodical. Detectives ran the image through databases. Nothing. No match. No criminal record. To the system, Lawson was invisible. So they widened the search. Detective Maria Cortez began pulling reports of similar attacks across Arizona. That's when a pattern surfaced. 2 months earlier, a 26-year-old woman named Megan Parker had been stabbed while waiting for a bus in Mesa. Witnesses described a man with the same build, the same calm demeanor. Same knife wound. Broad daylight. Then another case emerged. 4 months prior, in Tempe, 31-year-old Amanda Riley was attacked in a parking lot. She survived barely but told police her assailant's eyes were cold. Like he wasn't even human, she said. At the time, her case went cold. Now, investigators realized she had described Derek Lawson. The chilling truth hit hard. Rachel Monroe's murder wasn't random. It was part of a series. The media exploded. Headlines screamed, "Daylight serial killer at large." Residents panicked. Police set up tip lines that rang day and night, but the leads came in twisted knots, conflicting, contradictory. Some swore they saw Lawson sleeping under a bridge. Others claimed he worked at a local mechanic shop. Each tip sent officers chasing shadows. But then came the break. An anonymous caller told police about a storage unit rented under a fake name. Inside, detectives found journal spirals filled with erratic handwriting. On the pages were sketches of knives, maps of city streets, and most disturbingly, lists of women's names. Rachel's name was there, circled in red ink. Each entry read like a predator tracking prey. Dates, times, locations, notes about routines. Runs at 6 a.m. Works late shift. Lives alone. The journals confirmed what detectives feared. Lawson wasn't killing at random. He was selecting, watching, planning. But every time they thought they had him cornered, he vanished. Detectives traced Lawson to a seedy motel outside Phoenix. But by the time SWAT stormed the room, it was empty. On the nightstand lay a knife, clean, sharpened, waiting. Almost as if he'd left it as a message. For the families of Rachel, Megan, and Amanda, the investigation was a nightmare. They wanted justice. They wanted answers. But Lawson seemed untouchable, slipping through cracks like desert sand. Detective Cortez described it best. It felt like he was always one step ahead. Like he wanted us to chase him. And then, just as investigators felt the trail going cold, new footage surfaced. Another woman. Another city. Same man. The hunt was far from over. By the summer of 2023, the fear in Arizona was suffocating. Parents wouldn't let daughters walk alone. Joggers avoided the morning trails. Every man who lingered too long on a sidewalk became a suspect. And still Derek Lawson remained a ghost. Detectives were exhausted. Weeks turned into months. The journals gave insight into his twisted mind but no clear path to where he was hiding. Some believed he was living off-grid, blending into homeless camps. Others speculated he had left the state entirely. Then in August, a tip came from a gas station clerk on the outskirts of Tucson. A man fitting Lawson's description had purchased water and a pack of cigarettes. The clerk remembered his eyes calm, cold, unforgettable. Surveillance footage confirmed it. It was him. Police swarmed the area within hours. Roadblocks were set up. Helicopters hovered over the desert. Officers combed the rocky hills with dogs and drones. For a moment, it seemed like the nightmare was about to end. But Lawson knew the desert better than most. He ran deep into the jagged landscape, slipping between canyons and washes where vehicles couldn't follow. A manhunt stretched into the night. Searchlights cut across the sand. The air buzzed with radios. Every officer expected to catch him within hours. They never did. By dawn, Lawson had vanished again. No footprints. No discarded clothes. Nothing. As if the desert itself had swallowed him whole. Detectives were left with one haunting reality. Rachel Monroe's killer was still free. For Rachel's family, the pain was unbearable. Her mother wept on live television, holding her daughter's photo. She was my everything. And he took her. He's still out there. Please, someone help catch him. The FBI was called in. Profiler teams studied Lawson's writings, his patterns, his behavior. They concluded he was a classic predator, methodical, intelligent, fueled by power rather than rage. They warned he might already be planning his next attack. Communities across Arizona stayed on edge. Women traveled in groups. Pepper spray sold out in stores. Fear was everywhere. And yet months passed. No new killings. No new sightings. Derek Lawson seemed to disappear off the face of the earth. Some believe he died in the desert that night. Others think he slipped across state lines, starting over, watching and waiting for his next victim. But the most chilling possibility? That he's still there. Hidden in plain sight. Living quietly. Blending in with ordinary life, just as he always did until the day he chooses to strike again. Rachel Monroe's death remains unsolved. Her story is a reminder that evil doesn't always lurk in the shadows. Sometimes it walks beside us in broad daylight, smiling, unnoticed. And as for Lawson, the truth may still be out there. What do you think? Did he vanish forever, or is he waiting? Serial killers like Derek Lawson are rare, but his pattern reveals a mind built on control, ritual, and calculated risk. Unlike most predators who prefer the cover of night, Lawson chose daylight. Experts say this choice wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. By striking when the world was watching, he fed on the shock, the terror, the audacity of it all. Psychologists describe Lawson as exhibiting traits of psychopathy, shallow emotions, lack of remorse, and an unnerving calm. Witnesses noted his face never changed during the attack. No rage. No panic. Just precision. That emotional flatness points to someone who kills not out of impulse but out of purpose. His journals reveal another truth: obsession. The lists of names, maps, and notes show a ritualistic fixation. Victims weren't random, they were chosen, studied, tracked. This is a hallmark of organized offenders. They plan, rehearse, and often relive the crime through writing, sketching, or even revisiting locations. The daylight attacks suggest Lawson craved more than violence, he craved dominance. Each stabbing wasn't just murder. It was a statement: I control life and death even when the world is watching. Experts also point to the possibility of narcissistic traits. By leaving behind a clean knife in the motel room, Lawson may have been taunting investigators, playing a game of cat and mouse, relishing the chase. But the most terrifying aspect of his psychology? The unpredictability. Most serial killers escalate until capture or death. But Lawson vanished after Rachel's murder. Was it restraint or strategy? Did he disappear because he chose to stop, or because he's preparing for something bigger? For investigators, one fact is chillingly clear. Lawson embodies what criminologists call the invisible predator. A man who looks ordinary, forgettable, someone you'd pass in a grocery store and never notice. And that's what makes him so dangerous. Because if he's still alive, he could be anywhere. Watching. Waiting. Rachel Monroe's story is more than a headline. It's a reminder of how fragile safety can be, even in broad daylight. One moment she was walking to her car, texting her mom. The next her life was gone, stolen by a man who thrived on invisibility. Her death left a scar not only on her family, but on an entire city that still carries the fear of what Derek Lawson represents: a predator hiding in plain sight. And though months have passed, one question lingers like a shadow no one can escape. Where is he now? Is Derek Lawson buried somewhere in the desert? Or is he living quietly, blending into a new neighborhood, watching his next victim? For Rachel's family, justice is still out of reach. For the rest of us, the thought that he might still be out there is the kind of truth that keeps you awake at night. This case forces us to confront a chilling reality. Monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes they walk beside us, smiling, unnoticed. What do you think? Did Lawson vanish for good, or is he waiting to strike again? Share your thoughts below. And if you think Rachel's case was haunting, wait until you hear about the next one. A murder with no body, no witnesses, just a locked room and a missing girl. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because in the world of Behind the Crime, the shadows are always closer than you think.